I'm Terry Brock with terrybrock.com. You know, as thought leaders, speakers, coaches, and facilitators, authors, all those wonderful things we do, we're really in the publishing business now. And we see certain things happening now, scandals that are happening with the BBC. And we want to go into that to see the kinds of things that we can learn from it and what we can do. And to do that, I've got the best. Alan Stevens is joining us now from his office in London. Alan, thanks for being with us today.
It's a pleasure, Terry. Always a pleasure.
Always good to have you here, my friend. And I know your background is as a journalist. You and I both have a journalism background and share not only the practice of it, but also the love for the integrity and what journalism is all about.
Yeah.
And I think particularly now it's important for those of us that are thought leaders to be able to understand and learn lessons from that. You've had experience as not only past president of the Professional Speakers Association in the UK, but also president of the Global Speakers Federation. So, I mean, the entire world, plus an extensive background in writing. So you know print, you know video, you know audio. So what can we learn from this that's going on? And matter of fact, for those of us that don't know as much about it, give us just kind of a quick capsule. What's going on right now and some of the controversy in the BBC?
Well, what's happened to the BBC? And it's obviously a great shock to us here, Terry, in Great Britain, because we've always revered the BBC as the home of great journalism, which it has been for many years. In fact, it's 90 years to the week since they started broadcasting on radio.
Yes, that's right.
So we're very disappointed to see this sort of thing. Well, in a nutshell, what's happened is that the BBC have been accused of kind of looking the other way when one of their people was misbehaving. He was a DJ who disc jockey, started out doing shows in the late 50s, through the 60s, 70s, 80s, became a very, very popular character, a household name. The sort of person you would watch on a Saturday evening, and a guy called Jimmy Savile, and he's died recently, a couple of years ago, probably just as well, because he's been accused of all sorts of dreadful behaviour. And the BBC are now embroiled in a scandal about whether or not they effectively covered it up or didn't reveal what was going on at the time. And it's become quite a cause célèbre over here, and
yes.
A lot of people are looking at the BBC and thinking, how did that happen?
Yes, exactly. We see what's happening, and we're, again, not here to accuse or to say what's going on. All I can say is there's a lot of seriousness when you are a publisher, when you're sending out information.
Absolutely.
And people trust you. So, Alan, you have had experience of looking at thought leaders around the world, literally. You've been in many, many countries. You see what's happening. What are some of the ramifications you think this story and the importance of journalism and integrity in journalism has for thought leaders today?
Well, I think you put your finger on it there, Terry. You talked about the importance of trust and authenticity, and a journalist has nothing if they're not trusted. And the same thing applies to a thought leader, to a speaker, to a presenter. We expect our audiences to trust us. We expect us to deliver material that they believe in, and we expect to be listened to, and we expect our words to be authentic. And the problem is when a great institution such as the BBC is seen not to be trusted, in a sense, almost by implication, it means, can we trust other people? So I think even though perhaps, well, I've worked at the BBC, and in fact I was in there yesterday, I'm not part of that at the moment. Nevertheless, people look at us, people like you and I, who deliver words of wisdom, as we hope, and people think, well, can we really trust them? That's the big implication for us.
Yeah, I think so, because you and I have both seen speakers that are just consummate professionals, incredible people that we know are filled with integrity. Unfortunately, as with any group, there's going to be a few that we kind of wonder about from time to time. And so I think, how do we go about judging what to do and what to say if, for instance, a speaker sees something that's going on with a client that is not appropriate? Do we remain mum, not say anything? Do we make it from the platform? What are alternatives, and what do you think would be best for a speaker to do in those situations?
Well, I certainly wouldn't deliver anything straight from the platform, Terry. I mean, I think that would be inappropriate. But if I saw something that was going on that I thought was not proper, perhaps even illegal, then I would certainly follow it up. I would have a word with the person concerned, and if they weren't prepared to do anything about it, I would take it further, because it's our duty, it's our responsibility as global citizens to make sure that we don't allow these sorts of things to go undealt with. And that's it. Coming up to the BBC, which is where we started this discussion, that's the accusation which is being levelled at them, that people saw what was going on but decided to look the other way. And I think it's completely inappropriate for us to do that.
Yeah, I think it's the easy thing to do, to look the other way and say, oh, I didn't see that going on. But when we do have a responsibility to
Yes.
own up to what's there, or at least to say what's happening. And then, like you say, sometimes take it to another level. And I think
And that's, sorry, I'm just going to say that may be difficult for us because it may affect the relationship that we have with
Oh,
the
yeah.
person who booked us, for example. If we see something in a company, if we see something in an event where we think things are not right and we report it, then they could say, well, we don't want anything to do with you. But I think that, that's important. Our integrity is so important that we must do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and shifting from there, but in something along the line of integrity that you have done so well, you have the Media Coach, which I recommend anyone watching this to be sure and get every week. Alan, really,
you.
I get good information I can use from it, and there's always at least one or two or more ideas that I can go, yeah, I like it, and it's not really long. It's not like I have to spend 3 hours reading it. I do it very quickly in a capsule, and if I want more information, you give me opportunities for that. Tell us about how you do that and what you recommend for thought leaders who are publishing in the form of text, or audio, or video, and what principles you've learned and recommend to them.
Well, the principle that I follow, and one of the most important ones, is regularity. And in fact, you and I both remember a gentleman called Alistair Cooke, I'm
Yes.
sure, who used to do a show called Letter from America, which explained America to the Brits. He was a Brit who...
Is
who
that
moved-
possible to do? I don't know.
Well, he tried.
We're trying anyway.
And I was fortunate enough to meet Alistair Cooke on several occasions, and he was one of my heroes as a journalist, and he used to deliver every week. And I once asked him what was the secret of great journalism, and he said, Alan, never waste a word and never miss a deadline. And I think that applies to speaking as well. It applies to thought leadership. It applies to all the sorts of communications that we do. Never waste a word, never miss a deadline. Because it's very, very important that if somebody has come to expect something from you, and in my case, it's a weekly thing, you deliver things as well, you've got to be there every week because you've created that expectation. It's a responsibility to you to keep delivering that. And I think regularity is one of the most important things, and deadlines one of the most important things for any thought leader.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that's the importance to make sure that before we commit to something, we say, okay, I'm coming out every Tuesday at 3 or whatever. You're there every Tuesday at 3, because if you're not, if you don't say that, that's a different thing. I know some, for instance, I think of our colleague Mike Rayburn, who delivers a wheneverly newsletter.
Yes, that's right.
Literally what he calls it, wheneverly.
Very good.
And so it's like, okay, we understand, it's just, that's the way it is. But we know that the regular idea of news and information, people can turn to it and they go, okay, for you, I know every morning on Friday, every Friday morning, I'm going to get something from you, and it's coming out. Do you program those in advance? Do you do the work in advance, program it to go out? How do you do that?
Generally speaking, I write it on the Thursday evening, just a few hours before, and sometimes it's even been Friday morning that I finish it off. I treat it as though it's a journalistic deadline, and I try and leave things as late as possible. But sometimes if I'm traveling, for example, I was overseas last week, and I wasn't sure whether I have an internet connection. So I had to set that up in advance, but I did make I did have a connection. I made some modifications right at the last minute because I think it's important to be not only regular but contemporary in order to present something which is of the moment. And I think the same thing applies to speeches. I always say to people, put something of the moment in your speech. Otherwise, it looks like one you've taken off a shelf a few years ago and just reused, and I think that's not right.
Yeah, I like that. So you've got the regular ready to go. If you know you're traveling, which we are as speakers and authors, sometimes we're in the plane and we literally cannot get to an internet connection, can't send it out. So you've got something ready to go. But if you do have access, then you can go in there, make an adjustment, and make sure that it's in the moment. I like that idea. Well, what advice would you give to speakers that are watching this, authors that are watching this, in the light of increasingly fast deadlines, a world that's spinning faster and faster, technology becoming more important, and the importance of being a publisher? What words of wisdom would we hear from you, who's been doing a lot of this for many years?
Well, the thing is, I think about material all the time, Terry. So even though I'm producing this, the Media Coach, once a week, I'm always jotting down ideas. And I think one thing that's very, very important, and our dear friend Kenny Harris, who you'll remember, who passed away this year, his great thing was you should always have something with you to keep your thoughts on, to make a note on, because you never know when you're going to have a good idea or something you might write in a newsletter or put in a video or an audio. And it's all about being aware of that and capturing your thoughts.
Yep.
So I think all of the time, journalists are capturing their thoughts all the time. The other thing about journalists, they write every day.
Yep.
And I often say to people that, they say, I'm going to write that book or I'm going to do that blog. And I say, well, how much did you write today? And I say, oh, well, I've written for a few days. And I think they're never going to write the book.
Yep. You're right. It's a continual process of doing. I remember the late, great Earl Nightingale told us about taking those ideas. They're fleeting, and we need to stab them with a pen or with a pencil, and you would write it down. And that was the technology. Still works. As a matter of fact, writing notes down here for our session today. You know,
I've
little
got
3x5 index
right
card. It's a good thing to do. But I also love using my iPhone. Here, matter of fact, I'll have to show you. I got to brag on it a little bit. My new iPhone 5. So I'm using this and using Siri so that I can talk to Siri and say, Siri, remind me to do such and such, and then it'll say, when do you want to be reminded? And I can say next Thursday at 4, and it will go look on the calendar, find out what date next Thursday is, and give it to me. So it's another way to grab that thought. I think Earl Nightingale would be proud.
I don't want to top that, but I've been doing it on my new iPad 3 as well.
Yes,
obviously.
indeed. The iPad 3. And matter of fact, here we have to do that. I have my iPad 3 here as well. And by the way,
all right. No, they can look at each other for a little while. Look, there they are. Look, there they are. Hello.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, here they are. They can say hi to each other. Yes, indeed. There we are. Just like that.
Isn't that cool?
And I think the whole point is we use the technology, and that's the world that we're in today. We're using these, and you and I are able to see each other, talk, and communicate on a regular basis, even though we're separated by a big pond that kept our ancestors quite a ways from each other. And now we can not only be there together, learn from each other, gain a lot of information, and continue a great relationship. So I think that using that technology is a marvelous thing for thought leaders.
It's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, where would we be without it? But also, where would we be without pen and paper as well, Terry?
Exactly. I think we use all of them, use whatever is there. People sometimes say, Terry, you're using a pen and paper? Well, yeah. Take a pragmatic approach. The Japanese have taught us that. Do what works. And so we'll do it that way. But Alan, you have helped many people. Now, you mentioned your media coach. I'm not going to let you get away without you telling us how someone can access the media coach and how they can get in touch with you if they want to drop you a note or something.
Easily done. I'm at mediacoach.co.uk. So if you visit the website mediacoach.co.uk, you can sign up for the e-zine, or you can link to the podcast. I do it as a radio show, as you know, also at the same time once a week. And if you want to send me an email, it's alan@mediacoach.co.uk.
Excellent. And since Alan can be spelled many different ways, let us know how you spell it.
I spell it the same way as my mother spelt it, which is ALAN.
ALAN. Very good. All right. Well, Alan, you are a gentleman, sir. We appreciate your insights in this important time and the important subject of being publishers and what that means to us as thought leaders. Thank you very much for joining us.
An absolute pleasure, Terry, as always.